Hi, everybody. Welcome to week 2 of Jen Oxford's Art of Transformation webinar. She's got some excited things in store for you this evening. We're going to go ahead, it's right at top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get started here real quick. And if at any point someone has a question or whatnot, please take yourself off mute or send a message in the chat real quick, and we can try to get that answered for you. But Jen, take it away.
Well, thanks, Vanna, for coming back this week. That's my favorite part. Okay, we've had some really good feedback this week, so we're going to get started. I'm just going to kind of go over real quick as a reminder that we're going over the stages of change. So last week we talked about pre-contemplation and the idea that we need to get to the point where we understand that we need to change. And today we're talking about contemplation. Okay, so I like this slide because it gives you all the words, but I like the next slide better because it tells you what we look at, and it's each stage of change. And so a lot of us start with the no, not me stage of change, where we're not really even faced in the right direction. I actually really like it because it's kind of faced completely different. And then tonight we're talking about, well, maybe. What happens when we start considering that change might be what we need to do? Okay, so before we get into that, I did, in some of my research this week, learn about 2 types of contemplation, which I kind of knew about, but I found a great resource that explained this to me. And I wanted to talk about this because as we're getting unstuck, we need to understand why we're stuck. So there's 2 types of pre-contemplation. One is the uninformed. These are the people that don't know they need to change. You know, the people that think it's okay to cut people off in traffic and that's not actually a problem. These are the uninformed individuals, right? These are people that are seeking others' approval. They're focused on a prize. They're doing it for someone else to be happy, or they think I already know how to do this, but I choose not to. And you'll notice that all of those things are external motivators. So uninformed, when they're changing, they're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it for everyone else. And then the underinformed encompasses probably the majority of us, where we know we have a problem and we know we need to change, but we've tried before. And because we've tried before, we've probably failed before. And that feeling of failure is a terrible feeling. And so we don't want to do that anymore. So they start thinking different thoughts. They say things like, I know change is important. I don't think I can change. It's very different than I don't think I should change. I've failed so many times. I've tried everything. And then the quotes at the bottom of each column, one says, I know I have a problem, but I'm not really sure I want to do anything about it. And the other one, as you're getting into pre-contemplation, says, I'm not really sure what I can do about it. So that want and can becomes really important. I wanted to include someone to help kind of talk about the concept of being underinformed versus uninformed. So I invited Wendy tonight to share her experience after years of working on her health goals and what it's been like to go from underinformed to working on change. So Wendy, if you can share with us, that'd be great.
So hi, everybody. I am so technologically challenged that I don't know how to get rid of the picture of myself so you can actually see me. So right now I'm just a talking head. However, I want to tell you a little bit about my journey. I've had a weight problem most of my adult life since I started having my family. And about 15, 16 years ago, I went through a weight loss program because I realized that I was an unhealthy weight. And I was successful up to a point. I was able to drop about 35 pounds, and then I just hit a plateau. And it didn't matter how hard I worked out. I trained. I ran my first 5K. My husband was an elite athlete, and he trained me. And I used to go running for 3 miles every morning. I did everything I could think of, including staying on my weight loss program, and my weight would not budge. It just would not go below a certain point. And over time, I finally just decided, well, it is what it is. And rather than beat myself up about it, I just kind of put it on the back burner and said, okay, this is the way it's going to be. And I kind of left things that way for a long time until somebody in my own gene pool found Optavia and started losing weight with it, namely Jen. And I thought, oh my goodness, if somebody I'm related to can make the needle on the scale move or change that number, that's amazing, and maybe it will work for me.
Thank you. Oh, hey, you came off camera. Good job.
We got you off camera.
Thank you so much. And that's
now she's muted.
Oh, hold on.
There you go. Oh,
Go
no,
ahead.
she's still muted.
All right. And that's exactly what it feels like to go from pre-contemplative to contemplative when you're underinformed. It is not that you didn't think you ever had a problem. It is not like, oh, I just didn't hear the doctors the first 30 years that they were telling me to do this. It was that I had this real belief that it was impossible. And impossible is a really big word. But we're going to talk about how to get past that word tonight. All right, so we're going to go back to our little presentation. I shouldn't call it a little presentation. It makes it sound really small because I put a lot of work into this. But this is about contemplation and the stage of change where we're saying, well, maybe I could change. Not maybe I want to change, but maybe I could change. If you're still at maybe I don't want to change, you're not in contemplation yet. So you're okay, stay right there. We're going to talk about the defensive and barriers. So that's part of what I want to give you is what are some things that get in the way, right? So when you start to say, I know I need to change, I'm even starting to think maybe I could change, what are some things that happen? And so we're going to talk tonight about 5 limiting beliefs that happen at this stage of change. First, let's talk about what is a limiting belief. Okay, a limiting belief is a belief that you have. You have spent your whole life developing a belief system, and it comes from, I like the little head on the side, where it comes from your knowledge, your environment, right? How you grew up, what other people told you, what you envision your future to be, the past results you've experienced, and the events going on in your life, right? So it's really hard to believe that I can go run a marathon when I'm over 200 pounds overweight and I can't even get up and walk to the mailbox once a week. That's really hard. But what that comes from, Vanna got a little excited. What that comes from is some of our feelings that are going on, and we believe these are real. So there's a concept called emotional rationalization, where we believe that just because we feel something, it means it's true. Now, this can be really hard because if you think, oh, my feelings are 100% true, we're going to get stuck, right? And the goal of this is to get unstuck. What I'm telling you is that our thoughts lead to those feelings. So when we feel anxious about change, when we avoid activities, when we have negative self-talk, when we say I can't statements, I can't change, I can't lose weight, these are things that I used to say about myself, or even told other people like my doctor that I could never change. We start exaggerating responses. I saw this last week. I invited somebody to join the webinar. I thought, wow, a lot of people said it was an okay webinar. I was going to invite a friend of mine. And she came back with an exaggerated response. And I didn't confront her because that's not what you do with everyone when they're in pre-contemplation. We talked about that, right? I just wished her well. And hopefully at some point when she's ready, hopefully she knows that I want to help. But we can also focus on past failures. And you'll hear this in people. They will tell you, it's almost like a trauma narrative, right? This is all the times I failed. And it becomes very difficult to hear because they're trying to convince you that they can't succeed. The next one is tunnel vision. One of the limiting beliefs that I personally experienced is I kept saying my goal is to have a baby. And so I didn't care about weight. I was just ready to go and do whatever it took. And I was ready to surpass what some of the easier ways to do that were and go for the harder ones. And sometimes we do that. We think, I don't really want health. When I first started on my health journey, I said I wanted to do it to help my husband because I really loved him. That was my why. But that was a limiting belief. And that belief came from I didn't believe I could really change. So then the next, and then again, it's all based on our feelings. These are not based on circumstances. They're not based on fact. They're based on our feelings. Okay. So the first limiting belief, you probably have all used this before, but we're going to talk a little bit about the procrastination cycle. So the biggest barrier to moving past contemplation is staying in contemplation, right? Being in constant contemplation, or something we call procrastination, right? Those can be the same and they can be slightly different, but we're going to talk about the procrastination cycle because it looks a lot like constant contemplation. And it's a word that we're all a little more familiar with. So when we procrastinate, right, we make the decision not to make the decision, right? So if I'm at the beginning, when I went to a couple years in school, at the beginning of the term, and they said, you're going to have a term paper due in 4 months. You know, I would like you to have the topic to me by Halloween. And I was like, great, I have 2 months to think of this topic. In doing that, I decided not to think of the topic yet. I was ready to just pause and not go there. And so that decision to procrastinate actually becomes a decision. The decision to not start working on your health is a decision to stay sick. The decision to, what was I going to say? The decision to not work on your listening skills is the decision to have a bad relationship. So procrastinating is not a safe place. It's just a really uninformed place. Then the second thing, right? So we've procrastinated, we've gone through these things, we're not helping our life out, and we start to have guilt. Guilt is the belief that I am not good enough. So if I'm not good enough, is that going to move me to action? It's not. If I'm not good enough, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to do what the brain does, and I'm going to look for all the ways I'm not good enough, and I'm going to start getting in a real big spiral emotionally. That leads to our next, which is our panic, right? When we have a lack of action and we felt guilty, it leads to what we call a crisis response, right? Crisis response, and you may have heard some of these terms, includes fighting, which can be arguing, right? Telling people you don't need to do it, and that fight can be internal or external. Flight, some kind of running away, avoiding the topic. A lot of times flight looks a lot like binge watching Netflix. I'm just saying, not always, but sometimes. And then freeze, where we just don't do anything, and we actually get to the point where we can't really process the information around us. And then flail is the other one that a lot of people have experienced, and that's where we do anything. We don't really think about our decisions, we just move. And so this has happened to a lot of people in their health journey. They will get so desperate for change and procrastination. It's like writing that paper the night before. I'm just going to put in words on a page because I have so many pages I need to fill. And so when we flail and just do whatever there is to do, we're not really going to make progress, and we're actually going to set ourselves up for failure. And again, I really would like to see us succeed. One of the hints for knowing if you're in panic is if you are lacking curiosity, you're probably in crisis. And then the fourth step is excuses. So let's talk about excuses for a minute. One of the things I'd like you to do right now is if you can put your favorite excuse in the chat. What's your favorite excuse? Excuses are kind of like cookies. We all have a favorite. We might do a lot of them. And Matt's going to go on the next slide. Okay. Really good. Okay, I'm seeing some really common ones. I'm too busy. I'm tired. I don't have time, right? That time one is a big one, right? Especially for those of us who are not really healthy. It takes time to get healthy with most programs, and it feels overwhelming to get up and just start. And that's something we're going to talk a lot about. I'll do it later. The kids need attention, right? Ooh, we might have to talk to you guys, moms. What do you think you're really doing for your kids if you're putting them first? What are you teaching them? You want your daughters to go around and be raggedy old 40-year-olds? Is that really what you want for your daughters? Do you want them to believe they're not worth taking time and energy for? I've tried everything. We talked a little bit about that. You have not tried everything until you've actually tried everything. That's an emotional response, and it's not a circumstance. A lot of, oh, I'm too old. That's a really good one, right? We even have phrases in our society that say, you can't teach old dogs new tricks. Well, good thing you're not a dog, right? We're teaching human beings and not dogs. And we're actually going to talk about why humans are different than dogs a little bit later. So that's a really good one. And doing it tomorrow. That's right. Tomorrow is this mysterious land where we can get anything done. And yet nothing ever happens, right? I think it is pretty much where all teenagers exist. I shouldn't say that. I really do love teenagers. Okay, but let's talk about some other things. So some common excuses. And I want you to look at the slide for a minute. Present self, right? In our present self, we make excuses because we want to feel good right now. And we're trying to change from going from our present self that just wants to feel good in the moment to our future self that wants a long-term return, right? And so we're going to take all those excuses, and I wrote some of the ones on there. We're going to stop share for a minute. And let's talk about those. One of the things that we don't think about a lot when we're procrastinating, right, and with all of these excuses, is what happens 3 months from now, right? When it's September and I know I have a term paper due in December, I am not thinking about how tired and exhausted I'm going to be in December and how I'm going to have a bunch of other things that I have to do. I'm only thinking about how I don't want to do it right now. And by not doing it right now, it makes me really happy. I get that instant gratification. I have no stress, right? All that thing, we're running away from stress always. So by not doing it, I'm reducing my stress. That's what I tell myself. That, by the way, is a lie. You are stressing yourself out. You're just stressing your future self out. We actually have a joke sometimes at work between the other therapists, and we'll say that's future Jennifer's problem. Well, future Jennifer, she has a lot of problems already, so I'm going to try and help her out a little bit. And so as we're procrastinating some of these things, I want you to think about that. How can you give the gift to your future self? Think about that. When you give a gift to your future self of taking care of your health now, or of dealing with your relationship problems now, not when your kids get out of school, right? That's not the time to do it. Okay, not when my kindergartner is in school full-time next year. Not, this was mine, okay, my excuse after vacation. Ask Matt, that was my excuse. I'll do it when we get back from Hawaii, honey, right? And now I look back.
3 months.
Thank you for that. Now I look back and I think, why did I wait? Why did I wait? The girl that went to Hawaii did not have all the energy to do all the things she wanted to do. And now, instead of having all these things that I was able to check off, I'm going to have to go double my money, go back to Hawaii, and redo it again. That's pain. But that's the plan, right? And so I didn't really give myself any gifts by waiting till after vacation. And so don't just keep putting it off. Be smart, but invest in your future self. That's somebody that I know that you're really excited to meet. And the more you invest in them, the more exciting that person will be. So I just want you to think about that as you're thinking about all your excuses why you're not doing it yet. Okay. So the next limiting belief that we're going to talk about is the belief that you can't be successful, right? Again, this goes back to the failure. So I want you to put in the chat again, how many times have you failed at your current goal? Think about it. Take a minute. How many times have you failed? You're all counting in your head, aren't you? I can tell. Okay, we've got some in the millions. That's good. Years, too many to count, right? Lots of those. We have failed a lot of times. And so if you are feeling scared of change, I just want you to know with all of my therapist powers, I validate that you have had failures and that I don't know if there's a better word than sucked. I'm really sorry, but failing is the worst, okay? And so if you're like, I don't want to do that again because that was a terrible experience, I validate you, right? I give you all the permission in the world to say, I don't want to fail again. In fact, I encourage you not to fail again. But please don't think that not failing again is the same as not trying again. Okay? And that's where we get stuck a little bit. So when we think about where the thought, I can't be successful, I want you to think about, where did it come from? Right? It came usually from a previous experience. I promise you, when well, let me just tell you a story. I went to a family dinner this week, and I have a nephew who I think he's almost 2, super, super cute kid, walking around, right, in his diaper with a blue face mask. You guys, it was the best thing, right? Because he doesn't care. He doesn't care whether it's appropriate or not to be walking around in his diaper. And he doesn't care whether he has a blue face mask on. Are you kidding? His, I think she's 11-year-old sister, spent time with him and gave him that face mask. He is super proud of it, right? And so our belief that failing is bad comes from our need, right, to make everyone else happy. Well, you not being successful, you failing didn't make everyone happy, and you being successful hasn't happened yet. So let's get back to how we can be successful. Okay, what if you believed you could? Take a minute and really think about this, right? This was hard. This is really hard. If you have really failed, I don't know, one of you was like 4 million times, then I'm with you. It's going to take you more than 5 seconds to believe you can try again. So I'm going to give you like 10. I'm just kidding. I'm going to give you a couple more than 10. But I want you to realize that you are allowed to believe in yourself. I believe in you. If you can't believe in you, I'll believe in you for a little while. That's where we come in and we get all the social support that we're going to talk about in a little while. But if you don't believe you could, that's because of your experience. I really like what Wendy said before, because she didn't believe she could because she had done it yet, but she believed she could because someone else has done it, right? And that's how we really work. When we dream, we don't look at what we have already done. We look at what we've seen other people do. And then we start to do that. What would success look like for you? This is a fun conversation, right? Don't ask yourself what the future will look like. Yourself that has had all those failures will start to become a little curmudgeon, and you don't want to talk to them, okay? But ask what success will look like, right? And this is all coming from your thoughts. And I put this in there because when we change our thoughts, we have a big impact. So I found this quote when we talk about our thoughts, right? Thoughts are even more important than feelings. Thoughts have more of an impact on you than family and social relationships, right? So we think, well, I hear all the time the comment, you made me mad, or you make me really happy, or all these things, right? Well, I'm going to tell you the thing that if you've never talked to a therapist, you need to hear this. Nobody makes you anything. People cannot create feelings for you. Your feelings come from your thoughts, and your thoughts come from your expectations about your circumstances. And when your expectations aren't met, guess what? That goes back to your thought about what should have happened. So you can't always change your feelings, but you can always change your thoughts, and that will bring new feelings, and that will help you. So I want you to think about that. Some of us think, well, I just need my husband to believe in me, right? Good thing Matt didn't just need his wife to believe in him. We would not be here tonight, right? But we don't just need someone else to believe in us, although that does help, and we'll talk about it. We need to believe in ourselves. We need to change thoughts and say, I can, right? Drop the T, I can be successful. All right. Okay, our third one, and this is probably my favorite. We're going to stop sharing for a minute. Let's talk about this. So the third one is this concept of divine intervention. So I deal with this all the time when people are like, okay, I realized that I should not have punched that person in the face. I get that was bad, okay? And I have changed. I am a different person. And I'm never going to punch anyone in the face. So if you can just believe me, that would be really great, right? Divine intervention has happened. I've had this magical being overcome. Well, I hate to tell you guys, I have read the scriptures. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying it usually doesn't, okay? So we're going to talk about divine intervention for a minute. I want you to take a step back. When you think about divine intervention, that way you want a magic pill or you want a miracle to just change your circumstances, what does that mean? What does that mean? Does it mean you change your circumstances? It doesn't. So we're going to talk about this for a minute, because I'll tell you, if you know anything about me, I'm a pretty religious person. I have a very strong belief in a creator who loves me. But I'm going to talk about this for a minute. So for some of you, just be prepared. Okay. So we're going to go back to the slide. And this concept of a creator, right? And the concept of divine intervention. We want, right, that we want God or your higher power, whoever it to be, to come in and rescue you. If my higher power could just come in and convince my boss to pay me $10,000 a year, that would be great, right? Because that would be wonderful. But that's not the way it works. So what you're going to see is actually is a copy of the empowerment triangle, but we're going to talk behind that. So the dark gray is the empowerment triangle. Behind that is what we call the rescuer or the drama triangle, right? So I don't know about you. Drama is entertaining as long as it's on TV. I don't particularly like it in my life, but
that's funny because you do it for a living.
I do deal with it for a living. I try and reduce drama for a living. That is, one of my major goals. Maybe we should put that on the resume, a drama reducer. That's a weird title. We're going to have to come up with something else, you guys. But you have to start to really realize what situation you're being in. Because when you want divine intervention, when you want a magic pill, you're asking to be a victim. You're saying, I need rescuing. I am Lois Lane. This magic pill is Clark Kent, and Lex Luthor is my bad habit, right? The problem with you calling your bad habit your persecutor is you carry it with you constantly. There is no getting away from your own habits, right? And so when you're a victim and your magic pill, whatever it is going to rescue you, and your bad habit is constantly persecuting you, you are stuck. Have I talked about being stuck yet? Let's get unstuck, okay? So let's switch these things around. Instead of being the victim, right, there's a little arrow, and it says we are going to become our own creator. I don't know about you, but I pretty much think this is the plan, okay? I want you to learn to create what you want in your life. You don't need divine intervention. You do not need Superman, right? Again, drama belongs on TV, okay? Again, Superman, great on TV. If he kept showing up, all the buildings around us would fall down, you guys. That's what happens when Superman falls down. The crisis goes way up. Anytime that you find a hero or rescuer in your life, you're going to find that the crisis in your life goes way up. So by becoming a creator, we accept that we are vulnerable. We accept that we are not going to get through this without some stumblings. We realize we have the power to overcome, and we think about options. Otherwise known as we solve problems, right? We start to solve our own problems, sometimes with help. Our rescuers, the people who really care about us, are not flying us out of the danger, right, to some rooftop and making out with us. That's weird. I don't want that happening in my life, okay? I would probably even beat Matt if he tried to do that. I'm just kind of one of those people. So, but what I do want is somebody who cares about me, who says, how can I help you? Doesn't take over, right? Let me do it myself. I was a 2-year-old once. I want to tie my own shoes. I want to lose my own weight, and I want to overcome my own challenges. I want them to listen and help. My persecutor, right? My habits, they change too. They become my challenges. They're assertive. They're going to start being really noisy as I start to pay attention to them. I'm going to realize, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I used to eat 2 meals a day and I didn't start eating until noon, right? And then my other meal a day was about 9 o'clock and involved someone from the Keebler organization, right? Oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. You know what I'm talking about. But those people become constructive, and we have to start being able to address those with new skills, right? And we're going to have to develop skills. And instead of just ignoring your problem and saying, oh my gosh, this thing is happening to me over and over and over again, we're going to take Lex Luthor, we're going to sit him down, and we're going to have a little conversation, and we're going to say, you seem really heartbroken over your loss of your parents. I know a good therapist. You should go see them. I'm going to go over here and live my life, right? And we're going to get the help we need, and we're going to move on. So when you think of divine intervention, I want you to think of a creator, and I want you to realize that your creator has created you to solve your own problems. Okay? All right. Next. Okay. The next thing we demand is absolutes. Actually, I didn't even tell you. I think Matt should talk a little bit about demanding. Do you know anything about demanding absolutes, Matt?
No, I know nothing about this topic. I am pretty much the absolute master. It's going to be this way or nada, and it's going to be my way or you're fired. And it's actually been probably a limiting thing for me for all of my life, especially with my work career, that I put absolutes on certain things, and I have to have things a certain way. And I still struggle with this today. And by doing that, it limits my opportunities and my ability to grow and let other people grow with their skill set. So it's been something that definitely I need to continue to work on. So,
and you'll find that people who are recovering absolute demanders will recognize, right, that they were afraid to fail. That when we are absolutes, when we come in the room and say, you will do it my way or no way, then you're afraid to fail. And that happens a lot on the process of change. So you better be ready to fail. Not to be a failure, but to have some moments where you fail. And we're going to talk about in a couple weeks how to deal with those slips. But we want you to realize that when you demand absolute success and nothing else, you are just setting yourself up for failure. So it's not going to work. I really like this quote about fear, right? Because it's about the fear of failure that's controlling you. You see how that's controlling you, right? You can forget everything and run. Does that anyone else sound like the crisis cycle to you? I think fleeing was part of the crisis cycle. Or is it face everything and rise? Which one do you want to do? Do you want to rise or do you want to run? And I'm not talking about like the good running, like the 5K that you're working on. I'm talking about the other kind of running where you like, remember you sit and you watch Netflix and there's probably ice cream involved, that kind of running. Or are you going to rise? And I want you to know the choice is completely yours because you're the creator of your own life. All right. Next, this is one that was really hard. And it's actually one we don't think about a lot when we come to change. A lot of us get really excited about changing. And we don't stop and think about what will happen once we do change. Other people only focus on what we do when we change. And this was, yeah, that's right. It was me. I like to share my limiting beliefs, but I don't want to have the same ones as Matt because that gets boring. So anyways, one of the things that I said, and I said this to, I said this to my support system years ago when I attempted weight loss surgery, is I'm actually afraid of getting skinny. I'm scared. Does that sound stupid to anyone else? Because it sounds like just auditorily, it sounds kind of stupid, but in my heart, I'm scared. And so then I had a friend actually come up to me, and you know, I've gotten a lot of these compliments lately that have said, you look so good, your whole life must be changing. And I'm thinking, why is that a good thing? Like, I was very, and I'm going to use the right word here, comfortable. I was very, very comfortable with where I was. And so change means the opportunity to possibly fail, but it also means that I'm going to have to discover something new. I know really well how to be overweight. I'm really good at that. I actually don't know how to be skinny. I was like 9. I don't know if you guys remember how to do anything from when you were 9, but I don't remember. Okay, so I'm probably in the next couple months just going to ride my bike around the neighborhood and go to the swimming pool every day. You're okay with that, right? Because that's all I know how to do when I'm in shape is go to the pool and ride my bike. And so I have a lot to learn, and that can seem really overwhelming, right?
You're going to look pretty funny with earmuffs in the swimming pool.
You should have seen what I wore in the 80s. You think I would look funny? You have no idea. You were like a pipsqueak. Remember, he's younger than I am. So, yeah, I'm going to look funny is not even the first word, right? But that's what happens. And so we don't want to give up our old selves. We want to stay exactly where we are in our comfortable range. Here's the thing with comfortable. Comfortable wears out, right? People call couches comfortable. When I think of a comfortable couch, do you think of a nice couch? Are you thinking of a pretty couch when you think comfortable? No, we're hoping when we go to the store and buy a new couch that it's comfortable, right? Because we want it to be both pretty and comfortable. Well, you have to be willing to take care of it if that's going to be it. So one of the limiting beliefs that you may have is, what happens if I change? What will people think of me if I start? Will they think I'm shallow, right? Will they think I'm superficial? But being my new self can get really scary. So think about what your change is. I'm going to guarantee you, you know how to be whatever your problem behavior is. If you know how to be a hero with your family, it's going to be really hard to be a coach, right? Instead of saying, here, I believe in you, you can do this, you're going to say, get out of the way. I know how to do this better. And you're going to do that because you know how to do it. And you don't know how to step back and let people struggle. You don't know how to coach them. You don't know how to say, I know how to do this, but you have to figure it out. What we don't know how to do is whatever our goal behavior is. We don't know how to be better. We just know we want to be better. And we're going to talk about the skills. I promise we're going to get there. But just ask yourself that question. Are you afraid? Right? Are you afraid of becoming something more? I like the little pawn. And I think sometimes we are really good at being the pawn in our own life. Right? We weren't meant to be pawns. That's not the plan. We're meant to be much more. And so when you look in the mirror and you see that, don't run, don't cry. Well, you can cry. I shouldn't say don't cry. You can cry. But don't run away and say, I can't do this. Go ahead, look in the mirror, say, I'm meant for more. And then we're going to talk about the things you need to do to get there. Okay, what are we doing now? Okay, see, this is why I have slides, so I can remember what I'm thinking. So the next thing we're going to talk about is 2 transformational skills, right? So you've learned all about this. You've had lots of insight. You've said, yep, that's my limiting belief. Or maybe you're cool and you collect all 5 limiting beliefs at once. That's fine. I like collectors. I sometimes juggle more than one at a time. Sometimes when I'm really bored, I get all 5. It's fine. But you know what you've done. So let's talk about where to go. Okay, so you need 2 things to overcome this and move past contemplation, right? And there are 2 different types of support, right? So I wrote in the middle, you need support. Not just support is nice or it's fun, but you absolutely need support. And you need it for 2 reasons. One, you need social liberation. And the second one is you need emotional awareness. Okay, so let's talk about what that means. Social liberation is the concept that you are not the only person on the planet. Okay, this is a really important feeling because when you're the only person on the planet and your thoughts are the only thoughts you've ever heard, and they're the only voice you ever hear, it makes things really hard to convince yourself to change. You sit there and you tell yourself war stories and you say, let's talk about all the times I failed, you know, and you go over and you say, remember that time in 2nd grade? Oh, you're forgetting about that time when you were a sophomore in college and that boy broke up with you. And you start having these stories over and over and over again. But social liberation is about connecting with other people and building these relationships. These relationships make it easier. One of the things that I love about the Optivia program is that it gives multiple opportunities for social liberation. One, it gives you a coach. Let's just talk about making connections, right? You have a one-on-one coach that will help you through the program. The second thing it does is it gives you a community. People who are willing to say, we've been there, we have also failed, but we're still willing to try. Come try with us, right? Not, I will force you to do better, right? But I will help you create your own things in life. I am here tonight sharing this with you, trying to add value to your life because people have added value to my life, right? And through that, they've done some things that we are trying to do for other people. We're trying to make it easier. We're trying to tell you there's a simpler way to get to where you want to go than walking in the 100-degree heat with no shoes on. So stop doing that, okay? That's hard. We're also here to tell you that you're a good person, right? And I'm not telling you that because someone else told you you're a bad person. I'm telling you that because I'm going to be really honest. I know you told yourself that, and I want you to stop. But you can't stop until you start hearing other people say it to you. So I'm going to tell you I'm really proud of you, and I'm going to tell you that you can do it. and I'm going to give you that positive feedback. And that's what everyone in our community is doing, is they're giving that positive feedback. I'm going to empower you to create something, right? I'm not going to come in your home and I'm not going to meal prep for you. And I'm not going to tell you all the ways to do this. I'm going to say, if you want to take control of your life, I've got some things that can help you. And I'm going to empower you to do that, because I know that the joy that comes from doing it yourself is equal to the grin of a 2-year-old running around in a blue face mask. Okay. I'm going to give you hope. I'm going to tell you that other people have succeeded. I'm going to give you some individual support. Life is not cookie cutter. Even if the program is similar for everyone else, this program is a different thing. It's a different thing for me than it is for Matt. And it's still the same program. We have individual support and individual needs. And that's a big part of it. What success is for me is different than what it is for my husband. And we're going to break it down so it's super simple. So if you today, success is saying no to the first round of cookies. Okay, you said no to the first round of cookies, and I'm going to cheer you on. And we're going to talk about how to do the next step so that you can succeed. The next thing is we're going to talk about emotional safety. Trying to change in a room full of people who are pre-contemplative and sitting around and telling you you can't change is a really uncomfortable place to be. I know some of you are like, oh, I really want to lose weight. And someone's like, no, that's stupid. Don't do that. Right? Or I really want to run a 5K. That's stupid. That sounds like a lot of work. You should stop right now. Why don't you come over here on the couch with me? I have some donuts for you. Okay?
I think we've said that to each other.
Oh, we have. We were not coaches before to each other. We're working on that. But I think there's a lot of other people who would say trying to have a baby at 40 is stupid. It's not. And it's okay, sorry. It's okay to dream, and it's okay to want something more, and I'm like cracking my voice a lot, so it's okay if you guys laugh at me. But it's okay to dream. And if you don't have an emotionally safe environment to do that, I can introduce you to some really awesome people. And then you need someone to help you with your problem solving. You are really good at creating your own problems, but you need help solving them. Okay, I'm going to breathe for a minute. Okay, so the more I breathe, the more the tears come, you guys. It's kind of weird. The second part we're going to talk about is emotional awareness. Once you've learned you're not alone, you're going to start feeling feelings. I have a client at work, and every time she says feelings, she goes, yuck! And I think some of you feel that way, and you're like, no, thank you. I don't actually want to have feelings. I'm really happy over here in logical land where I've convinced myself that I am not capable, or I don't really need this, and all those other things. You need to feel feelings, and you need to express those feelings. One of the things I love about our program is the life book. It's not just a book you read, right? And I can just not participate, but you participate. You put your pen to paper and you talk about your life. Sorry. And you start, thank you. Thank you for my emotional support. This is an emotionally safe environment. Right? Okay. But you become curious about solutions and other people's success. So when you've started to dream, you are going to start talking about, well, how did you do it? How do you get through this, family vacation that you're going to? Or how did you go out to eat at a restaurant? Or how did you, tell your OBGYN to stop using the term advanced maternal age or something stupid like that, right? It's just rude. People, you just don't need to use that term. Okay. And you start making a pro-con list. Why do I want to do this? And I'm serious. Write down your pro-con list. Put it down on paper, right? And I'll just give you a little hint, add thoughts, add feelings, add your future self to your pro-con list. That's one of my biggest hints. So a lot of times we just think about comfort, right? We've talked about comfort. It wears jammies and watches Netflix and eats really big junk food. Add your future self, the one that's excelling. Okay? Increase your discussion about this area of change. Talk to other people. As you do that, it will help you open your horizons. You'll be curious and you'll start learning. And then I want you to be willing, and this is really hard, and I give you permission, again, with all of my clinical powers that are given to you at the state of Utah, I give you permission to let go of the negative, okay? It's okay to move. You don't have to move fast, but I encourage you to move. Hi, I didn't know he was going to stop sharing right then. That was, okay. It's okay, we're new to this. Vanna is very new to this. But I want you guys to think about those things, okay? You are not supposed to change in a bubble. People don't do anything in a bubble. We're going to actually talk about that with the next slide. But I want you to think about for a minute what it is that you need. When you go back to that social liberation, do you need to feel connected to other people? Do you need a support system? Or are you the person in the corner saying, I'm just fine, I'm just fine, I'm just fine? Okay, whatever you are, give yourself permission to be a little curious about who you could be and what you could do. And let's talk for a minute about why we're different than the dogs. Remember, the old dogs can't learn new tricks? We're going to talk about that. Okay. So this next, my good friend, Dr. A, gave me the 3 brains picture, okay? And at the bottom, it talks about a lizard. Now, most of us don't actually want to be lizards. There's a few. I have some nephews out there who, if they could become a dinosaur, would have been their favorite thing, right? But lizards don't really think at all. They have this automatic brain. And then there's the Labrador. And sometimes, you guys, we have a dog, and his life looks pretty cush to me, right? He literally has like 4 beds in the house. I have 1 bed. He has 4.
And the couch. And the
4 that actually belong to him. And then he uses everything else, right? And all he does is lay around and sleep all day until we get home. And then he comes up and wants to be petted. His food is automatic. It just sits in the dish. It's there, whatever. He doesn't even have to make dinner, like that whole thing. He doesn't do laundry. We won't talk about where he does other things, but he doesn't do any of those things, okay? But we want to just be emotional. We want to just go with whatever we feel in that moment, right? And that's how we got stuck. Wherever you are, whatever the habit is you need to change, you did it because you channeled your inner Labrador. And I'm sure you are very lovable in Labrador. But I'm going to invite you for a minute to be human, right? Now that can be hard for those of you who've been a dog. I don't think dogs can handle it. But, I said you were a dog. That sounds really weird because I don't mean it that way, okay? But I'm going to encourage you to be human. Part of what makes us human is connecting to other people, right? My dog can sit alone in the house all day. Humans, you sit them alone in the house all day, and they actually have progressively negative responses to that, right? The longer I'm alone, the harder it is. Okay, but we need to be with other humans. The problem is that when we're trying to get stuck, we don't want to be with other humans. They show us our weaknesses, okay? But I promise you, if you're willing to take a chance, and I would encourage you this next week to, explore the human side of you, get to know some people, have some conversations, reach out to the person who connected you to this webinar because they love you and they care about you, and start to have that connection. And one of the things that you will realize is that as you take your problems and not give them to Superman, right? Because he's going to go do weird things like make out on the rooftop, so avoid him. But as you take your problems to other people who care about you, you're going to find that your problems start to get solved. And that is the beauty of change, is that we take our problems that we're avoiding and they start to get solved and they become better. My friends, I am so grateful that you joined us tonight. I hope that you got something out of this and that you were able to kind of see yourself in one of these things and maybe choose to say, maybe I can still change. One of the things I want to tell you real quick before we finish is there's 2 things to remember this next week. One, Ben is going to click the slide, is there's a focus group coming up that starts Monday, September 9th, called Tone the Tummy. This is a free group to people who are interested in just getting to know a little more about what it takes to get healthy. So I would encourage you to reach out to the person who invited you, ask them about the event, and they would be glad to share it with you. The second one is if you're having fun and you're learning something about yourself, please come back next week. Next week, we're going to talk about preparation, right? One of the big things that I'll tell you that people make mistakes with is they get so excited. They're like, okay, I'm ready to change. I'm ready to change. And they forget to prepare. Preparation is a really important part of change. It's what keeps us on the right track and doesn't make us just have a nosedive, okay, into failure. So I'm going to invite all of you to come back next week. I'm going to work really hard on preparing that for you. And thank you so much for joining us. Matt, what would you like to end with?
I would just like to thank everybody for jumping on with us on your Tuesday evening. We will be back in the same Zoom channel next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Mountain Time. And if there's any comments that didn't get answered in the chat, please reach out to the person who invited you, or reach out to us directly if need be. But I would really encourage you to reach out to the person who connected you with this webinar, and we hope everyone has a great week. Thank you so much.
Good night.